Welcome back to Soulrocker podcast, and here we are with my next guest. He goes by the name of Omar, or aka Trendz, and he's actually a good friend of mine. He is a visionary creator. He is a songwriter, a singer, a rapper, whatever. He's just a talented guy, and what I really like about him is he just has a really different, unique style, and he also has kind of like a different direction that he wants to take his career and his music, which I find it to be, really interesting. And I can't wait for him to keep on releasing more stuff and just seeing how he evolves within his career and where he ends up going. So without further ado. All right. So, hey, Omar, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't complain, just living life.
So, I always like to start by kind of getting to know my guests, but with their childhood, because it's always, well, I take it back. I had an interview the other day, and I was thinking their background had to do with, where they are today, and it's wasn't even the case at all. But most oftentimes, their background has a role as to how they're doing what they're doing today. So I'm wondering, tell me a little bit about how you grew up and stuff, because you're from California, right?
Yes. Northern California, the Bay Area, particularly South Bay Area, like a little south of San Jose.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, as far as my background, yeah, I grew up in a single parent household. However, being that I am half Mexican, I have a lot of cousins, a lot of uncles. My grandma had seven siblings on my mom's side. Um, so it was always a lot of family around me all the time. So even though I grew up as a as an only child,
Mm-hmm.
with only my mom, I always felt like my cousins and were kind of like
Your
brothers and
brother, your
sisters to me.
yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
and a lot of us we had a close grit knit group of a lot of us that were all within about 10 years of each other. So um that was the first generation, and there's a couple of I have a lot of cousins now that are younger than me. But
Mm-hmm.
there was, I want to say, about 10 of us that were within 10 years apart. And even I have an aunt that's only 6 years older than me. So she kind of grew up, even though she was our aunt, she kind of grew up in as another extended sibling
Right.
type relationship. So me and her actually lived in the same house for, I want to say, 20 years while I was growing up with my mom, because my mom did a lot to help out my grandparents a lot and always kind of stayed with her because she was the only one for the most part that was not in a relationship for the first I want to say almost 10 years. I want to say almost 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
So she would stay at home with me. So I grew up with my grandma and grandpa living in the same household as well. For most of my life. So, like I said, even though I was in a single parent home, I wasn't always alone. So
Alone.
it was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was good.
Now you said you're half Mexican. What's your other half?
So I'd be on my dad's side half black, a mix with a little bit of Italian in there as well. I never got to really know the history of that though, because I also didn't grow up knowing my father. Don't know who he is, never met. So that's another thing. So I don't really know my history on that side at all.
Right. Wow. Now, how did that affect you being only half Mexican and being, raised with the Mexican side of your family? Did you ever feel outcasted or just different?
Nah, no, they did not ever really make it a thing, to be honest. I always knew, just because I looked differently, that I wasn't full um Mexican, but I they never really ever made it something for me to be like chastised about or made a parent about. Like, to be honest, um, it didn't become a thing until I got him into middle school. Like,
Mm.
when it became like, oh, like you're that too. Like I always knew inside I was, but like not knowing like my black side of the family on my dad's side of it was never a thing. Like I just, when I would watch TV and I would see, other black people, I could kind of resonate to a certain extent, but like I always knew I was both sides. So until or yeah, like I said, middle school was when it became more apparent because of kids at school, not
Mhm.
necessarily my family.
Right. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome that, you weren't treated that way because I know that's like could be a huge thing. And so I'm glad you didn't have to really deal with that. Did you have anybody that influenced you or like somebody in your family that was into music or anything like that?
Nobody like, so as far as like what I'm doing now, nobody was really, I would say, fluent in thinking that they could do it. However, um, I was just influenced by just music in general. Like I had a lot of different genres of music going on around me, and there was just a natural affinity to gravitate towards just doing music. So the first time that I ever like really thought like, oh, this is what I want to do was I started doing talent shows. And like
Oh,
I always
really?
I grew up like as a super, super shy kid. Like um I had friends, but I was always just like the quiet one, or like
Mm-hmm.
until it really took time for me to open up and kind of show myself to people. That was just, I was just very reserved, I would say, to a certain extent. So once people got to know me, yeah, like my personality would come out, but it took a while before I really like, I don't know, it might be just like a trust thing type that I, kind of, just was always kind of to myself. And but the one time I realized, this is what I want to do is, yeah, I started doing talent shows. So I think it was like the second grade, and like I think I got on stage and like I wanna it was the 90s, so like I think we did something corny, like like I think the Backstreet Boys are in sync, and it was like me and like two of my friends, and we
Uh-huh.
were just like lip singing. We couldn't really sing, so we were just like lip singing. We put on a whole little performance, a little dance thing. But once I got on stage, like it was one of these weird realizations, because you don't realize, I'm 7 years old. You don't realize and really
Mm-hmm.
understand um, the full aspect of it. But something just told me like, you're comfortable up here. Whereas like a lot of people, like you would think as a shy kid that I would be like, crumbling in panic, to
Yeah.
like, and have stage fright. But no, like even to this day, I don't have stage fright. I can go up
Wow.
on any stage and like talk to people and feel totally comfortable. I think even as I grew older, I became more comfortable. The only time I do get butterflies though, still to this day,
Mm-hmm.
but
But that's like
I won't.
normal.
Yeah, I won't get butterflies until like, I'm waiting to do my set and they're like, okay, you're next. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so it's just like the little fidgeting of things right before you go on stage. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I've never had a fear of stage fright. Going in front of people and talking to people, had like nothing, no problem with it at all. So that's kind
That's
of how I
awesome.
knew. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's how I knew it was kind of like a low key destiny to that I just need to be performing.
So you start, okay, so if there was that kind of had you already like knowing like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So what kind of, I guess, what other steps kind of, continued after that kind of continued to lead you to what, and do you write your own music or do you
Yeah, yeah,
um
I write everything. I to be honest, like it started my love for doing what I do now. It started with performing. Um, and then it slowly gravitated to now being a creator and writing my own music. Like that's my favorite part now. I still like being on stage and doing a whole stage show, but I create more than I'm on stage. So like I naturally gravitated to just the creative side. Overall, like I love writing. I love being in the studio. like one of my goals now is to be able to write for other people and create for other people and help them
Mm-hmm.
get their ideas out and be the best and just write like,
Artist. Yeah.
yeah, write great songs for people. Because I don't necessarily like I don't really have to be in the spotlight. That's never been my MO. It's always just to be able to be creative and like I
Creative.
said, I still love being on stage, but it's the whole vision of it. It's not just going up and just performing. Like I want to put on a amazing show, but that goes from like what I'm wearing to how we perform the songs to, like just, I'm a whole visionary when it comes to
Visionary.
like wanting
Mhm.
to put on a stage show. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just one of those guys who has five different people behind you while they're just,
Mm-hmm.
egging you on type thing. Like I'm gonna put
Yeah.
on a show. And so I love that part, but it's just also that's a creative thing that I just love to do as well. It's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do for this song. That's what we're gonna do for that song. This is how we're gonna flip it on. This is when I'm gonna talk to the crowd. So like I'm creating a whole, I would say a whole like movie in a sense to how I'm gonna do the show. But yeah, creating just creating in general and just being creative has always been like my strength. And as far as the steps go, I want to say it was just with the talent shows, and then the talent shows kind of gravitated to being like, okay, well, I want to say I wrote my first rap. I was like 12, 13 years old. And like, I also think this is another funny story, but like, I didn't think that I could really do music at a young age. But like, when I grew up, we had Lil Bow Wow, Lil Romeo. They were around my age.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when yeah, that's when another reason why I was like, okay, like I'm young, I'm 12, 13 years old, I can be like these guys. And that's when I started writing my first rap. So
Wow.
um that's how it kind of naturally gravitated to writing, into writing. And then I would say not until I was about 16 is when I first got in the studio. I had a friend in high school who one of his older cousins started recording with some friends in another city, but they were close. And so he kind of showed us how to do it. So then we
Mm-hmm.
started creating our own music, doing talent shows with original music at 16. And then, yeah, kind of flourished from there.
Wow. So you have quite a bit of experience on stage then too as well, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, that was probably my first. Like that was my first experience with music,
Experience.
and is
Yeah.
is was definitely performing. Like if I'm being honest, I want to say even before I started doing the talent shows at school, where I grew up was like in this cul-de-sac, and there was a lot of kids who we all went to different schools, but we were all around the same age, and we started putting on like little performance shows in one of our friends' garages. And like we would do everything as far like we had some older kids who were, I think, like in middle school or high school at the time, and we were
Mm-hmm.
young. I want to say we had to be somewhere between the ages of like 5 and 8. And
Wow.
they would have they would help us like choreograph like little dances for the songs. And of course, we're lip singing too. We don't have any type of equipment, but we would choreograph routines, put on, lip sing these shows. We would actually print banners from the computer and like hang them on the garage.
Wow.
We would set up all the chairs for like our parents to come and watch us. And then we would print flyers and like walk around the neighborhood telling people to come to our shows. Like we even got to the point where we were like doing snacks. Like we had like a little snack, we would make popcorn and drinks and stuff like that and give them out
Mm-hmm.
while we performed. So yeah, like that's pretty what it like, it was really what
It
set
was
it
that
apart. And
deep. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, we were really involved with it. And then like I just fell in love. And then that's when I started doing the talent shows at school, because I was already doing it at home
Mm-hmm.
with my friends. So like I was like, I could do this. And then yeah, that, I mean, obviously with when we're doing it in the garage, it's not like really a stage. So
No, but you
once I
guys
did.
were doing, yeah, you guys were putting in the effort.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then once I got on stage for real, like I was like, oh yeah, this is it. And then yeah, like I said, it naturally just progressed into something that I love doing.
Wow, that's so cool and interesting. And I'm like literally picturing as you're describing, telling the story.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
it was really deep like that.
so I do want to kind of get into some of your music because I mean, you kind of walked us through a little bit about, how you got started and like when was officially like your first when you started writing music and all of that stuff. So, I know your first single was back in 2015, which is called
Uh,
Now We On, is what I
so
noticed, right?
that was like no, I think it goes further than that. Honestly, I started dropping music. All right, so this will go back into a little history as well. Like,
Hmm.
I think my first song. So like, you got to think of the timeline. So like, the internet was there, but it was like people weren't really dropping. Like, there was no SoundCloud, there was no streaming.
Hmm.
So I want to say 2006 was the first time I ever dropped music, and I don't even remember how we dropped it, but yeah, that's when I first went started going to the studio
Okay,
for
probably
real.
like a yeah, probably like a
Rick,
mixtape CD or something.
yeah, it was like so like me and my friend we recorded. So like we he didn't have like a real studio. So like when I first started writing our own and performing, we would just perform. We would write it and practice it, but we didn't actually record it, and we would just perform it as we practiced. So then when I got into the studio for the first couple of times, that's when I started recording, and it was with just some local engineer in my town. And so I had kind of got with another friend who wanted to do music as at the time. Um, and his name was Aaron. So me and him started like a group.
Hmm.
Um, and it was like again, this just to give you a timeline, this was like around the time when the hyphy movement in the Bay Area was like at its peak. So, we had, E40 doing the tell me when to go stuff and like,
Hmm.
that was all the rage. And so like we and him were in a group called the Ghost Squad. And that was the first time I released music was with me and him. Cause like I always felt like I always needed somebody with me. Like that was it could be like, that one of those childhood, you know, I don't want to say traumas, but just like those dependency type issues that,
Yeah.
I never felt like I could do it on my own.
Hmm.
So, and it was kind of just, kind of going into the self belief of like, maybe I'm not good enough, and just, asking yourself those type of questions. So,
Yeah, like
um,
he helped you boost their confidence a little bit.
exactly, you know what I mean? And it's good to have somebody there who, when
Supports
you
them.
write,
Yeah.
exactly. So when you write something and they're like, "Oh, that's dope," and you guys are kind of using each other's energy to like,
Hmm.
create something. So like that's kind of how I always felt. So we would release music, and then officially, I want to say I didn't join another group, but I kind of was flip flopping with who I did music with. So I had one of my friends that I like still. I think this was after high school, so like right when I had just graduated. One of my friends who I still make music to with till this day. His name is Ralphie. He wanted to do music, and he was like a producer, and so he made beats and stuff like that, and he had some of his older brothers that were in a group. They wanted us to like, we were like, I want to say just like kind of like they were like the pro team, and like they were trying to develop us as like the understudies. However,
Hmm.
at the time, we were going to like all these like house parties, and just we had a lot of friends who were kind of still in high school, so we were going off to all these places, so we knew what people were playing and what people wanted to hear. So we started doing our own music, and yeah, that was, I think, so then we had dropped like a little mixtape online,
Hmm.
just me and him. And so yeah, so that's how it kind of started. And then like from there, I think when I was like 20, I dropped my own mixtape. So my first ever project by myself was called, damn, I don't even remember. It was called Flight Time. Flight Time. And that's when I actually,
Okay.
so like when I first started rapping, yeah, like when I first started rapping, actually, my first like I had to kind of like, even the whole name Trends, like it took a while before I became Trends. Like I wasn't always Trends. Like I think my first it developed into like, I had these funny rap names that I just like, I could never really think. Uh so like my first rap name officially was like Kid Spitfire, because at the time I was like skateboarding and stuff, and that's when skateboarding was really cool over here.
Mm-hmm.
So like Spitfire was like a brand in skateboarding. So I was like, oh, this resonates, because like
Right.
that I'm a rapper, so I spit fire, so Kid Spitfire, and then it just became just shortened it down to Kid Spit. And then I think after that I went to from Proud to Problem Child, because like Problem Child, the movie, was like one of those movies I
Oh
watched as a
yeah.
kid. Yes,
Uh-huh.
sir. So and I was like, I really, I always gravitated to that. And I wasn't like a problem child to like my parents or in school or anything like that. But like I said, I just really love that movie. So my
Mm-hmm.
mom, whenever I'd watch it, my mom would call me that. And so then Problem Child was like, a lot of people knew me out here as Problem Child, and we shortened it to just P Child. So like when I was running with all these groups, that's what they knew me as. It was P Child, P Child, P Child. However, there was also like, we started getting a little bit of recognition, and there was another rapper, I think from Oakland, who was also going by Problem Child. Later come, there's a LA rapper named Problem. So like I was just, I think I got to like 2022, and there was another engineer that we were working with, and he was just like, you need to start all over and just think of a name that resonates with you, because it's not like you can run with this name,
Mm-hmm.
but there's other people that kind of sound similar, but that have similar names. So it's just, and plus like the stuff that you were putting out
Mm-hmm.
beforehand wasn't like the highest of quality, so you kind of want to just shed that image and just start fresh and start brand new. And so like I kind of took some time off from music for a little bit, kind of just thinking of what I could do. And like again, like fashion is another big thing in my life. Like I've always been a pretty fashionable person. I've always gravitated to fashion. Like when I told you I was a shy kid when I started high school,
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the things that I like always made me stood out was how I dressed, because like even though I wasn't one of those people who just like made like drowned you in personality when I first met, like I wanted people to notice me. And so
Yeah.
like that's what I would do, is like I would just dress really well. Like I never shopped locally. Like I've been online shopping since I was like 14 years old. Like, you know what I
Wow.
mean? Just trying to
Yeah.
find clothes that like people couldn't find nowhere else. And so
Dude, we're
like
so much alike. And I think you brought up something that like I've never even thought of, but I think that that's been something that I can resonate with so much. It's like I don't have the personality like other people do, so I think the clothes like does it for me too.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
like and
crazy.
like
Okay.
yeah. So like yeah, like I've always known about that. So like that was always, like I said, it just that's how I spoke. That's how I was
Mm-hmm.
loud.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
when I would walk in a room, that's how I made my presence known. It's like, oh damn, where'd he get his shoes, or where'd he get his shirt and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's what I wanted
Yep.
people to know. And so I kind of still live that way. And so like had I not tried to go with music, like fashion was probably another route that I would have tried to like aspire to be. Like I still have
Mm-hmm.
ambitions to somehow be in the fashion industry. I don't want to give away my ideas, but
Yep.
there's still aspirations for sure.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, like actually, I think me and my one of my friends we've started a few clothing brands. They haven't been like the most successful, but what I mean, like that's why we do, now we got into doing like merch and stuff for my music. So like, and it's obviously stuff that a lot of people like. They still ask me about it to this day. So
Yeah, because
we're
I have one of your pieces and I'm like I love it. So
exactly, yeah. So like we're still
yeah.
getting it, trying to get, everything going again. And once we figure out the next drop, it'll be coming soon though. But yeah, so like with the whole thing, with the fashion, like naturally trends was, a
Uh,
natural.
oh, okay,
That's
I
how I
see.
came up with the name Trends, because it's like, all
Okay.
right, like, and like the whole thing was like, I don't follow trends, I make them. So
Hmm.
that was how I kind of came up with that. So
Came up
then,
with it. Wow, that's
mhm,
interesting. That's
yeah.
cool.
So yeah. So Trends officially, yeah, and then yeah, the first mixtape I dropped, I want to say was 2010. 2010, I think, was the first time.
Oh,
And I got
okay.
inspired by that mixtape era of like, we had Lil Wayne, we had Kendrick, Wiz Khalifa was a big inspiration at that time, Big
Hmm.
Sean, J. Cole, obviously. So all those guys right there, that was when, the height of the mixtape era was,
Hmm.
at its peak. So that's how I started. And then I think I dropped two projects, um, I want to say two or three projects before streaming became like a thing.
Okay, got
Um,
it.
yeah, so my first mixtape or my first single on streaming was 2013 or 2014, was Go to Work. That was my first single on
Okay.
streaming.
I don't know if I came across that one
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Apple Music.
Yeah, it should be the first one on there. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
So
Maybe I was just looking at all the music that I have saved and maybe I didn't
yeah,
look
yeah,
on
exactly.
the other
Yeah.
search. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what I noticed too, that like ever since once it kind of hit the streaming, like you're saying, like Apple Music and stuff, um, you had something from 2015, and then you were always consistent with at least like a single every single year, pretty much after that, which has been really dope.
Yeah.
What has been I guess like your favorite or best whatever project that you worked on.
Probably, to be honest, probably hasn't even came out yet. Like as far as but like as far as what people have heard,
Yeah,
I would say just the first project that I put out on streaming, um, I think it's the first one, or it's like the only album that I have on streaming
the
is the
Pretty
Pretty Girls.
Girls and Smoke Sessions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's probably my favorite. Just because it was like a full piece of work, and like it probably took, I want to say, about 2 years. Like the idea of it started around 2 years to really like put out, and like as far as the music goes, I mean, to be honest, like it's the most personal, because like all of those stories that I'm telling they're all based on
A true
real.
story.
Yeah, and like the way it's really interesting, like the way, like no one's ever really, I never really got to talk about it, but it was just like over a course of a year or two, and like um it was just all real conversations that I've had like with women. So each song is kind of based on a different person.
Hmm.
And yeah, so like I can like, if we were having a personal conversation, I don't want to put any of these women on blast, but like I could tell you the stories of each one.
Each
So
one.
like,
Okay.
yeah, so that's really why it's like such a personal um
But
story
stands
to
out.
me.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
project
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
exactly. So and then just trying to put the whole visual piece together, like I wish I could have done more with it. It was just, the amount of resources that I needed to really put out what I wanted to do. Like I actually held on to it for a couple months, because like I wanted to do so much more with it, as far as like merchandise and videos and
Hmm.
commercials, and like I had a whole visual plan for it, but like people were just like, you just need to put out the music. And it kind of dwelled on me that, yeah, like if I just sit on this for too long, it kind of just I don't want to say defeats the purpose, but like you're never gonna move on to more if you're just holding on to this.
Right. Yeah. So would you say
So
that that's like one of your biggest challenges that you've had come across, like, with what you're sharing, like, not wanting or not being able to have to release it in the way that because you even said you're a visionary. So like not being able to release something in the way that you want it to be because of resources or whatever. And so
yeah,
like,
I would say for how I am and how I think, that's always the biggest. It's a challenge every single time because yeah, like I always have like a thoughtful, and I would say thoughtful and like creative way of how I want to release each thing. And sometimes those things just don't come to fruition because like again, like resources and just trying to uh, I don't want to say do too much with it, but just like, wanting things to be a certain way, and it's just not unrealistic. Because like if I have unlimited resources, yeah, you can definitely put it in. So it's kind of just like
mhm,
playing, you know, just doing the natural, just like upside and downside of things. Like sometimes like the upside out or the downside just outweighs the upside. So you just kind of have to roll with the punches and just do what you can with it. Cause again, it's just sometimes it's just not like always the best thing to kind of just hold on to things because you kind of just have to, I guess, in a way, like for as a creative, especially a musician, like
mhm,
you kind of just have to like really just put stuff out because you're not going to be move on to something better like until you really just put out what you have. Because
yeah,
like you could be making better music, you can like I think that's the hardest thing for me is like Pretty Girls and Smoke Sessions isn't the best work that I've ever done. However, it still means something to me. Like the songs weren't like the songs that I'm making now, I would say when it comes to like just how they're mixed and the beats I'm using, how much I've gotten better as a writer. Like the songs now that I'm making are so much better, but like I think it's just because those were so real and such a real project. And then also I hold on to like, damn, I wish I could have done this. Damn, I wish I could have done that.
mhm,
So you still harp on those things, but it's just better to kind of just let go and just it is what it is. It was a time, it was a moment, and you go on to bigger and better things. So
yeah. I mean, I could definitely understand because you're innovative and visionary and creative and all these things that I can just imagine how difficult it is because it's like it just doesn't satisfy you to just do what everyone else is doing, just release and shit, and then you're like, you want more to be able
exactly.
to express yourself fully to what the way that what makes you you. So, which I think that that's really dope, but I understand the complexity of it. It just makes it more difficult to be that way.
Yeah,
you
100%.
know. Now, I'm so like one of the things, and this has kind of is kind of in the same topic and boat here, but like when I listen to your stuff, it has like a really Cali vibe to it. And I'm from the Midwest, and like it's just so different to what like is here. And then you've mentioned about like other artists when you were growing up, and then like even when you were doing the mixtapes and all these artists. So like if we're looking at like more of today's time, who would you say is some of your current artists at the moment, just in general, and then who are some that you would say that maybe you like from out here in the Midwest?
So like to be honest, like my biggest inspiration in music is Kanye, like number one. So
Okay.
um like yeah, I don't want to say too much more than that, but yeah, just for what's going on. But yeah, like
Yeah,
he will always be, and I will never speak down on or speak
on his work.
uh, on highly on him. But yeah, on his
Yeah.
work, like number one, like he was really, I mean, prior to the time um that College Dropout release, like I honestly still had doubts that I could make it as a rapper because I mean, like I didn't come from like my mom, went to college, as college graduate. Like I was always middle class. Like, um, even though I was a single parent household. So like I didn't really grow up, with those struggles that you would normally hear about
Mm-hmm.
in stories that of rappers. And so like I never really thought that I could have something to tell that people wanted to hear,
Yeah.
because I didn't have those, those same type of struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kanye was like one of the first ones who really broke that down and
That's true.
said like, you don't have to be a gangster, you don't have to be from the hood, you don't have to be. I mean, he was from the hood, but like he didn't really like
He wasn't
glorify it,
talking about, yeah, trap
exactly. He didn't
houses and
glorify it.
whatnot.
He's exactly. So,
Yeah.
he was unapologetically himself, and people gravitated to that. So he was honestly, I mean, I tell this to everybody, like without Ye, there's no Drake, there's no Kendrick, there's no Cole. Like he was really the one who broke down those barriers and made it okay to just be a regular person, like a regular
Yeah.
guy. You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
true. Mm-hmm.
And so those I would say he's definitely the biggest inspiration. I always inspired by um like I think back in the day for sure. I mean, even to this day still, but I think Lil Wayne is the greatest rapper of all time, just in my era. Like I love Jay-Z as well. But there's just nobody who can outwork Lil Wayne, and just the amount of content he has is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Um like I said, I love Jay-Z. Growing up, another one of my favorites was Joel Santana.
Mm, yeah.
I was Dipset so bad. And so like that was for sure big. And then as far as like the West Coast goes, for me, my favorite, like I honestly like it's weird that you tell me that my music has a Cali vibe, because I've never really thought that, just because I'm out here with a bunch of Cali rappers, so I don't think my music really
It
sits
sounds the
in that.
same. Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't think it sounds the same at all.
Yeah.
But like one of my favorite like West Coast rappers, and again was in that era when I was growing. I mean, I was already rapping, but he had a huge influence on me, was Dom Kennedy. And so that for sure, he for sure was like, one of those guys who was a big inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Drake, he's just, unmatched when it comes to the kind of music that he makes. No one's touching Drake, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then as far as like nowadays, I would say like, yeah, I mean, I would say, to be honest, like, I mean, the one thing now with there's so many rappers out there. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I love a lot of people. Like I listen to a lot of different people, but I would say, the biggest inspirations right now, probably like, like the Canadian rappers and like Atlanta rappers, to be honest. Just because like
Okay.
the ones they're just different. I mean, and as far as like I always gravitate to like the more either lyrical side or who can still be themselves. Like I love lyrical rappers from Atlanta. Saha the Prince, Deontay Hitchcock. Those are just a few that like come to mind, because they're still Southern, but like they rap for real.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, Tory Lanez for sure is a big inspiration of somebody that I listen to. PNB Rock was a huge inspiration, RIP.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that really hurt me what happened to him, because like I really, really loved his music. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Um, but like, to be honest, like I mean, I tell you, I tell people a lot. Like I love rap, I love hip hop, but like I'm usually listening to R&B. Like
I was gonna say you like R&B
R&B,
too, though,
yeah,
which is good because I feel like a lot of people who are like really into hip hop, like they don't really mess with R&B. So
yeah. Like I tell you, I tell people all the time, I only rap because I can't sing. Like if I could sing, I would have been a singer. Like, um, And like you hear it in my music, like
I was
you
gonna
can
say
tell,
you
like
can
yeah,
hear it. Yeah, you can hear that like there's like I don't want to say soft, but like there's a kind of like a vibe where it's like you can hear that's not like your traditional hip hop, but like also not soft. Like it has a has its own like sound and flavor to it. And I don't
yeah, and
even
like
I'm trying to think that like, well known, like I couldn't even tell you who do you not that, I because I hate when people say that like, oh, who do you like a comparing type of situation and
yeah,
so I wouldn't know who to even like quote unquote compare you to because I you have your very unique style. But I guess like there's probably how is the scene out in your area as far as like maybe not the artists that are so like well known, mainstream. So is there like a big like a smaller underground type of like artist community out there?
I mean, yeah, there's a huge label. So like the label that I put my music out under, Empire, they sign a lot of. They're based out of San Francisco, so they signed a lot of like Bay Area artists for sure. That was like a couple, yeah, like they're in that area, so they definitely get a lot of people under their wing first because they're so local to the scene. I wouldn't say it's a big community. It's this there's a few who are starting to break out. Um, like, obviously G Easy's from the area. And he's up there. We have Mozzie who just signed to Yo Gotti. Yeah, so there's a few. I mean, there's a couple few who are breaking out into like the national scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But as far as like, yeah, it's still pretty local. Larry June's on a lot of stuff with a lot of people. He's on that label Empire, so he's still doing like his independent grind. But yeah, it's not really. I mean, and then like those you got to think like, I mean, it's not super far. Still like, I mean, I could drive to San Francisco in like an hour and a half, so it's not like it's crazy far. Like everything's kind of pretty close out here, but uh it's still like kind of affiliated by like the more well-known cities get the more popular artists.
Got it.
So yeah, so it's kind of still harder out here to get noticed than it is, I would say, in a lot of other places because there's just not I would say the Bay Area though is like the biggest melting pot of artists that you could find. There's definitely some great ones on out here. They just haven't been discovered yet. But yeah, there's a lot of people still doing their grind, still doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think it's gonna grow more in a couple years because there's definitely a lot of people starting to break out. But I would say there's not really like it's so eclectic as far as like the people out here. Like there's not really a sound anymore because a lot of the people can do a lot of the things that everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say there's more, I would say like genres. There's more genres of Bay Area music than there is like you have the LA sound, you have a New York sound, you have, the Chicago sound, the Atlanta sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all kind
The
of stay in that,
Texas
whereas
kind of Texas has their own little sound too, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure, Texas has their sound. And so it kind of in the Bay Area, like I said, there's just I don't really think there is there is kind of, but it hasn't caught on to a certain extent, and like not everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it's still like being nurtured, I would say for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. Do you feel like you've been given any type of good advice throughout your music artist journey by anyone?
Not really, to be honest. If I'm being 100% honest, like I don't really have. I would say for me, it's the other way around. It's like me giving advice to people who
Mm-hmm.
I feel like need it, like because that's another like ambition is like not only do I want to take my music to another level, like I'm here to give out free game. Like that's another thing we didn't touch on is I went to school for engineering, and it was like a music school in LA. And so like I really put in the work. Like I'm very what's the word? Like intentional. Like, you know, ever since I've been into music, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding out I'm finding out who all the creators are involved with, like the great song, like not even just a great song, just any song that I like. I'm finding out who produced it, who wrote it, who helped these artists, you know, make these songs, who's in the studio with them, who the engineer is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
You're going
I'm
deep.
figuring out,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm figuring out all those things because I'm like, what makes this song great? Like who are these people? And you know, as you get to know it, like it's a lot of the same people doing the same songs like over and
That's
over and over
smart.
again. So I'm
Yeah.
inspired by wanting to be like those people. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of my ambitions was always to like help older artists, you know, get hit songs again, you know, like that was, you know, like the artist that I grew up on is like one of my, you know, bucket list is to work with all these artists who inspired me and help them, you know, still create, you know, big songs and get them on the scene again. And also like developing younger artists, you know, like I have a few friends who, you know, who kind of grew with me as far as, you know, the whole Fly Zone collective goes. And it's like that's not something that I plan on ending. Like I want to really make it like a collective of just gifted people who I can help, you know, take their music to the next level because it's something that inspires me. Like when I see people who are great who may just not have the resources or the know
Mm-hmm.
of what will take them to the next level, like I want to help them. You
Right.
know, like I want to help them get there, like because that's something that I studied. Like I study what's gonna take me to the next level. Like so, like when it comes to like song quality, like that was really what I would say the biggest difference between me and a lot of like people who are I would say like my peers is that I'm going deeper in song quality. Like I said, I'm working with producers. Like I worked with, you know, Logic's producer already. I've worked with, you know, Lil Durks producer already. Like
Oh wow.
I'm working with people who is gonna like really take not just take me to the next level, but like, you know, I feel like it's helping me feel like I'm in the same ballpark as those type of artists, you know, like
Yeah.
if my music's living up to that standard, like I may not be as well known as them, but like, you know, again, like I'm we're using the same producer, I'm getting the same engineers, the quality is still up there, even
Right.
though it's not getting as many views or as many clicks. It's like that's really what I care about. And I want to help other artists do those same things, you know, because like everybody has a studio now. It's not really hard. Like I have my home studio set up, you know,
Mm.
and but again, it's the quality of work, you know, and that comes down to like are you willing to put in the time and the effort to not only make this song great, but like also, you know, it takes money. It's not it's expensive to put out songs. Like a lot of people don't really know how
Yeah.
much it takes, but you know, it's every single if you're putting out a quality single as a I would say as a if you're invested in yourself, if you're invested in yourself as an artist, you don't have to be, you know, somebody who's signed or whatever, but if you're invested in yourself as an artist, you're looking at I would say at least the minimum to put out one song is about $700 to $800.
Wow. Yeah. From when I
And that's
yeah, go ahead.
and that's just like I said, the minimum. I mean, most of the songs with like marketing and really trying to get it off the ground, you're like shooting the videos and stuff. You're probably looking at about 2,500 or
Oh, wow.
more to really like. And so like, it's not a lucrative business. It's really not, especially starting
Mm-hmm.
out. It's
Yeah.
really not. You really have to put in the time and the effort and the hours as far as like, you know, how you're gonna pay for all these things. But it's a really an investment in yourself. And yeah, a lot of people don't realize that because like I could tell you like, you know, you don't really make that much money off of songs like a lot of people think you do, but it's not until
Mm-hmm.
when you start really blowing up and you're starting to make good money off of it, it's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not as lucrative as a lot of people think it is.
So you think that the artists like that are more, mainstream, they're making probably the most of their money off of like um what's it called? Being on stage and doing like the appearances and stuff, right?
Yeah, if they're mainstream, if they're on a label, that's usually how a lot of people make their music, and that's why they do so many of them. That's why they're always on tour, always at a different club, because like that's really where it comes down to making music. However, on the independent side, if you're independent and you can do, and you can, and you're getting a lot of plays and views on your videos and things like that, you can make a lot of money for sure if you have a good following.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the independent side. So a lot of the artists, that's why a lot of artists stay independent. Um, it's better for them now because at the end of the day, you don't have somebody telling you how to do things. And your return on investment is a lot more.
Yeah. No, I definitely can see that. Have you done any appearances or anything like that?
Not lately. I haven't done, to be honest, I haven't done any shows or like performances or anything like that since before COVID. But
Okay,
that's yeah, it's also
but you
my
have
fault
done
because
it.
like oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I used to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Shows mostly. It's not. I don't really do like the club appearances is when you really get like I would say like a hit song or like a name that draws attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for right now, like for us on the come up type artist, usually you only do appearances if you're gonna have like a single release party or something, like you're dropping a new song or a new project or a new video,
Got it.
and then you're just going to make that appearance because you're doing that. But usually it doesn't happen a lot. Like so, like most of the time, it's just little club performances where they'll just have you come and do like two, three songs just to like hype up the crowd, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you definitely do. I mean, it sounds like you know a lot about, the stuff that goes behind like, some of these artists. I like to watch a lot of like podcasts and stuff on these big artists and stuff like that. I know you do too. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've learned certain things. And it does sound like you're actually like right with these people, just having all this awareness and knowledge about what like a true art, what it takes to be a true artist. So that's really dope. And I also like how it seems like you're kind of like, I don't know, I want to say like killing two birds with one stone, because it's like you're obviously like trying to learn how to be an artist, but also how to be a creator at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, again, like I, it's just a natural affinity to just to want to learn all these things and um that's just like I'm one of those people who likes to take things apart and figure out why, why
Hmm.
even things like when you release a song, why that song may have not worked, you know what I mean, and
Hmm.
why it may not has resonated with people, and so like and then I'm going back and trying to figure out those things, and just like yeah, it's just a natural I guess a natural need to want to keep getting better, but as far as yeah, and I mean, I don't want to be one of those people who doesn't tell people things like, you know what I mean? Like, even if I don't make it, like I said, and it could just be the where I come across an artist who, it's like some people just really want to focus on solely creating, and that's fine. Like, I get it. Like, I love that creative process too. But you if you don't have somebody by you who knows what they're doing, it's really hard to grow and really hard to like um get noticed. And so like one of the things with that whole knowledge perspective is like I've worked with other people who I've wanted them to grow even further than me. And so like it's just natural for me to want to give that knowledge as like just like like having like proteges and things like that, like
Hmm.
if it's not me, I want it to be somebody that I can help,
Yeah.
um
And that's
and
awesome.
and and just yeah, and like and still be a part of the creative process. Like I think naturally like artist development is like something that I've always wanted to do, like just even when it comes to like I said, working with some of the artists that I was influenced by I want to help them still have you know, great songs, even though people might think that they're, washed up or things like that, but it's still at the same time like I want to be able to cultivate, you know, up and coming artists, because a lot of people like I was talking to somebody the other day about like, and this is I don't want to like talk down on anybody, but like there's a lot of great singers in this world. A great singer is one in a million, but there's 6 billion people in the world. So, that still puts out a lot of great singers. But like when you watch things like The Voice or you watch American Idol, like a lot of the times you don't really hear about those winners. How many seasons of American Idol have we watched? And,
Mm-hmm.
there's only maybe, 5 people that I can name off the top of my head that have gone on to have successful careers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're it's it But the other thing is like, we know of a lot of not so good singers who have had great songs,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, like you can meet a great singer, but if they can't write or produce a great song, like, a lot of people are still not going to hear about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's the other thing, is I've always wanted to help people create, you know, good songs so that they can be noticed, for their talents, because, that's all it takes, is wanting to help people, create, great content and great, having great songs out there, because it's not hard. It is hard. Like it's a hard process to really make a good song. So,
Is that
like
a producer's job though? Or is this like a
uh,
mentor or like a
yeah, it has, the producer produces the content. So that's
Mhm.
really what it comes to. That's like the basic description of it. However, nowadays you have, I would say, so like I can give you a good breakdown of a producer. So like somebody like Hitmaker, right?
Mhm.
He's a producer.
Mhm.
He doesn't control, he doesn't actually make beats. So that's what a lot of people used to think. So like even with
Yeah.
Dr. Dre, was when people call Dr. Dre a producer, Dr. Dre does make beats. However, he produces the whole production of the song. So like even though he made the beat, he's going in there and like with Eminem, he's telling Eminem, "Oh, you should rap this way. You should do this way. That's good, but like keep this part, change this part up, do it like this,"
Mhm.
because he has the vision in his head of how it's supposed to sound.
Mhm.
So like, that's what a producer's job is. They're producing the content of how this song is going to be okay to how it's going to be great. So like Hitmaker, um he hires beat makers, he hires songwriters, because what he does then is he takes those best parts of what those guys are doing and he creates a great song. So he'll tell people
Mhm.
to take this part out, and he's also in there with the singers, telling the singers, "Hey, you should sing it like this," or "That was good,
Mhm.
but switch it
Mhm.
up to this part, do it like this," because he's producing the whole entire process of the song so that it becomes
Mhm.
a great song. So like in that sense, that's kind of what I aspire to be when I help people, is like, even when they come record with me, I'm like, okay, that's good. However, flip it like this or do it like this. I don't necessarily make beats either, but if somebody sends me a track out, which is like each instrument separated, I can take out what I want and create a song out of
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So like I can do little things, but like I'm not necessarily a beat maker or necessarily like, you know what I mean? So like I would consider myself more part of the songwriter uh team. Like that's what I really love doing, is creating the songs, creating like melodies that people can easily like hum, or that are just very catchy. Like I've always been I want people to be able to sing my songs. So it's like just creating catchy things that sound good in people's ear.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
dope. you have a great vision that you gotta just keep at it, and I know someday it'll happen. Now, would you say that you have anybody that, like, let's just pretend like the resources wasn't a thing. If you can go sit in a studio with somebody tomorrow, who would that be? Whether it's an actual artist, producer, whoever.
That's hard. Damn. Because I can, like, there's like 100, but if I'm being 100% honest, see, like, and it's really hard because I'm such a fan of so many people, but like I also don't know, like, working wise, like if I would want to work with them, because sometimes
Got
like
it.
it just doesn't, it may not blend. But if I can just go in
Mhm.
somewhere and like soak up how this
Okay,
person is like.
give me like maybe three then.
Okay, so yeah, so I would say, like, not necessarily make a song with, or like I would say just learn from.
Yeah.
If we're doing, like, okay, learn from, like, yeah, that would
Yes.
be it. Would All right, if I could be in the studio with anybody and learn from, it would definitely be the Dream, for sure, number one. Um,
What do you like about the Dream?
just like his songwriting, I think, to me, is
Okay.
like, to me in my generation, and just like, how old I am, I think he's the greatest songwriter of all time for me personally.
Hmm.
Just like in my era, I don't think anybody compares to, the amount of songs that he put out, writing for other people, um, writing for, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rihanna.
Yeah, because I
He
guess
just
because I
he
guess like
just
most people just probably think of like his basic music, but like actually he also writes music for other people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
writing some of the,
Okay.
the biggest the biggest hits. He just wrote on Brent
Wow.
Brent Faiyaz's album. Um, so yeah, like, I mean, that's one of those guys who I really like. I try to break down and learn from, for sure, a lot of his stuff.
Okay.
Number two, I would say another one for me is a huge one. Would be Jermaine Dupri, just because he's been doing it forever.
Ever.
Yeah,
Okay.
since the crisscross days,
Yeah, he's been there for a long time.
and he's, still part of writing the biggest hits, like,
Hmm.
for Mariah, for, you know,
Hmm.
everybody. And so, like, I would definitely try to soak up game from him. And then, as far as, like, all right, let's say for the last one, we'll see, to do a song with. If I could do a song with anybody, for sure, got to be Chris Brown. I think Chris Brown is the greatest and
Okay.
entertainer of our
Hmm.
generation, for sure.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
like, to have a song with Chris Brown would be crazy. I actually wrote one already, and I have somebody who I don't want to say sounds like Chris Brown, because I don't think anybody sounds like Chris Brown, but I just have this song that I wrote that
Uh-huh.
I really want. I really wish I knew people who knew Chris Brown, so I could just, like, give it to him, because I
Right.
think it's an amazing song. But I don't know. I
That
already
would go
recorded
well
it.
with him. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's not even. I don't even think it was, like, specifically for him. I just think if he sung it, it
okay.
would it would change the world type. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It still might come out. I don't know. I've recorded it and I have it, for me, and we'll see. We'll see what
Hmm.
happens with it.
No, that's dope. You have some good people right there. So I know you kind of shared, I mean, you've shared some of your goals is to know is like what is actually what do you got going on right now?
So right now, I'm still in the process of figuring out what's next. Trying to put together a plan of action for the next couple of months and the following year. So right now, I kind of have a good idea of what I'm gonna do. It's just finalizing and making sure that resources are there. What we'll need to do. So I should be dropping, if everything goes as planned, I should be dropping a new single next month. So, or whenever this comes out in November,
Okay.
probably towards the end of November.
Is
And
it a
then we're just,
single or
yeah, it'll just be a single.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, that one of the things that I have, like I said, when you asked about advice, somebody did tell me that right now the best way to go about dropping music is to go for singles first. So just drop singles until people are requesting a project. I have two projects already in stash waiting that one of them for sure I only want to release as a project, but I don't want to do it again until it's one of those things that, like with the whole Pretty Girls and Smoke Sections, like I don't want to do it unless I get to do it exactly how I want it to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one I could sit on. It's not really nothing crazy, but I definitely want to shoot like that one. I'm really trying to shoot like not a short film, because I don't want to say it's a short film, but a continuation of videos that basically make one movie.
Mm-hmm. That would be dope.
So yeah, so we're working on figuring out details for that. But for sure that it'll be singles. It'll be singles for a while, honestly, until I can
until the time is right that you can release.
Yeah, because you know what it is like I'm a very when I do projects, it has to be in continuality of, like, there's always a theme. You know what I mean? Like I love concept albums.
Mm.
So like the whole Pretty Girls and Smoke Sessions, it was a concept album. And
Right.
even when I did mixtapes, like it was all like conceptually the same type of thing. And so like, those are like my favorite projects, is like like Childish Gambino's Before the Internet, like that was a concept album. So like those are definitely my favorite. I feel like they hit different because it's like an audio movie.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's how I love doing projects, is like I really love the whole concept of it. So that's probably why I won't be dropping any projects until I can do like that type of stuff.
Right. And I feel I respect that.
Yeah. So it'll just be singles for now. So that's what we're working on, is just figuring out the game plan of what's gonna drop and when.
Got it. Anything else as far as like, gosh, I don't know. Like we were talking about what do we call it? Merch. Is there anything?
Not in the like we're in talks with dropping that, but again, it's just kind of just dependent on how the music goes. So if once we start dropping music, I definitely have some ideas in the works when it comes to merch, but right now it's not like super high on the priority list until like we get the music going. So like the music's first priority, and then after that, we'll see how things dive in. Obviously, like nowadays you got to be like a huge content creator for everything to stick. So it's kind of just working on those. It's like it's not just music, but you need to be in people's faces all the time. So just figuring out how we're gonna do some of the content. Like I actually pretty much have everything laid out of what I want to do and how I want to do it. It's just just doing it, right? So like just getting it done. And then for sure we're gonna definitely drop merch. I would say I don't know if it's gonna be this year though, but for sure it's in the near future.
How is social media, and like how active are you on there?
It's hard. I would say that's probably like one of the biggest roadblocks.
Challenges? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure a challenge, because I'm an introvert. You know what I mean? Like I'm an
We talked
introvert
about
for
how you're
sure.
kind of shy still, right?
Yeah, I'm an introvert. Like I'm like the type of person, like when I'm out with my friends, or like I'm out in public, um I definitely am energy, like I feed off energy. So if it's a good time, like I become extroverted. And then but like I'm also the type of introvert where like, I also like to just chill in my room and kind of just get my energy back. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
need to like so like I can definitely be the life of the party at times, but like, after that party's over, I'm going to my room and I'm like, I'm gonna hibernate for like a day or two. You know what I mean? Like
I feel you.
I gotta refuel that energy tank. So it's hard because like I'm not one of those type of people who like to like blast out,
What you're
everything
doing.
I'm doing all the time.
Yeah.
So like again, it's figuring out how I'm gonna drop content. Like I know what I want to do and how I got to do it. It's just not, and it's not. Yeah, I probably won't be those people who just like goes live. However, I do have an idea. Like, if anybody wants to do it, I want to do like a R&B playlist versus, where just like you get two people who love R&B and just like want to do like a play by play of your favorite R&B songs, and just kind of set a vibe.
I'm
That's one of
down.
those. Yeah,
I'm
that's one of
definitely
those things I
down.
want. That's one of those things I want to do on live, just to kind of be like, oh, that would be dope.
Yeah,
Um,
that
but
would be dope.
yeah, because I like that's and then you can kind of feed off each other, make each other like have different playlists because there might be a song that I'm listening to all the time that you may not, and vice versa. So it's cool. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I like
but
that.
yeah, that'd be dope. For sure, I want to do that sometime. But yeah, like I just don't like I'm not one of those people who probably will go live often or like just like post like, oh, I'm here, I'm doing this, blah blah blah. Like I don't really like talking to the camera, you know what I mean? Because I just feel like
Hmm.
you're really not talking to nobody.
But I do notice that because you're into fitness too, and you
Oh,
do be posting
definitely.
stuff about like you working out though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love that's one of those things that I love. Like, I love being healthy and like taking care of my body, and it's just yeah, that was. What's funny is that the whole reason that I started working out, like there was two reasons. Like my grandma passed away a while back, and one of my things that I like did for her was like I'm gonna take care of myself. She passed away from cancer. And so
Mm,
like one of those things was, taking care of my body and like, also like getting in shape.
mm,
But the one thing that fitness has taught me is consistency, because that was another hard thing of like, being a creative, you're not, it's hard to be creative every single day, because it
mhm.
takes so
Yeah,
much, it's draining. It
and
takes so much,
yeah,
energy.
yeah,
And like it's really hard, but like there's other ways you can be consistent when you don't have to write a song every single day, because
hmm,
it comes with those are those things that comes with just your mood, and like
yeah.
you know what I mean, you just have to
Yep. Be
naturally be in that moment.
inspired and yeah,
Exactly, for sure, inspiration is huge, right?
yeah, yeah.
So whereas like with fitness, it taught me, I went about it like I just want to be consistent, and I showed myself that I can be consistent. So it's like now it's just like trying to take that mindset and putting it towards music, and like
Hmm.
again, like I'm still learning. It's still progression, but learning to that I don't always have to be necessarily writing a song. I mean, I could be
To be
working on something
consistent.
out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I could be working on something
Mhm.
else. I can just be jotting down ideas or figuring out new content. It's not necessarily like, oh, just keep on writing and writing and writing. So
Hmm.
um that was one of those things that I learned from fitness. So I love, yeah, I'll always enjoy fitness. It's just like, specifically like bodybuilding. It's just, yeah, it's taught me a lot about myself and just perseverance and just like
Hmm.
growth just in general, in all aspects, and just also like being able to like mentally get through those roadblocks of like plateaus and like just not wanting to be at the gym some days. Some days you can just definitely like power through, but then also like some days, like if you're really not feeling it, just go home. Like you'll be okay, and
Yeah.
you'll have a better day tomorrow. So like it's just it's a lot that you can learn from it if you really like, if people really took the time. But yeah, like I'm definitely the type of friend who's encouraging people to go to the gym and encouraging them lifestyle changes that will
Hmm.
benefit them in the long run, for sure.
Yeah. It's awesome that you do that. And I was just mentioning too that like, I feel like there's like a different side of you when it comes to like fitness and you like recording yourself versus like your persona of an artist and kind of being like, I don't know if I should, post this or that or something. I don't know if that's how you feel, but like that's what just kind of like the vibe that I get from you.
I don't know. I've never really looked at it like that, to be
Yeah.
honest. But I think it's just more so like just because like I'm very particular, I guess, about what I post when it comes to music. Like I'm not I definitely I don't know. Like I just again I don't wanna downplay other people's stuff, but I've just never been the type that gravitates to like just somebody
Just
being in the studio every
posting.
day. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I don't want to listen to an unfinished song. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like if it's not sounding it like I just feel I'm definitely the type of person where I feel like people should hear it when it's done versus just like the making of it or the creation process. Cause like a lot of people aren't, I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just me in my head, but like I just feel like a lot of people don't really I don't want to say they don't like that part of it, but it's just I don't think it's I think there's just something there that just like if you don't know, if you're not a creator,
Hmm.
you don't understand the amount of work that it takes. So it's like you're just gonna kind of just
You just want to
downplay it.
zone in, and probably too.
What was that?
I said you just probably also want to like zone in and you're too
Oh
worried
yeah, for
about like
sure.
all the other important things that like,
Yeah, yeah,
social media is just not
yeah.
really important at that moment.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Like I'm too dialed into the moment of wanting to create this song that I don't really worry about yeah, what's going on like a a phone or whatever. So
Right. And posting
it's
and
yeah,
views and
yeah,
other
like
people.
I mean after the fact I might like, you know what I mean? I might post like a snippet of once we're in that once I've already recorded it and we're on like the
Mhm.
mixing process. I
Yeah.
think that's definitely better than just like right before you start or things like that. And then at the same time, like, yeah, like I don't know. You also got to be mindful like of posting things that people might know where you're at and just,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
so that
Hmm.
exactly. So that's another thing. When I'm at the gym, it's a, it's I could post that because, like it's just a gym. There's so many people there like it's whatever. But yeah, that's the other side of it is just like yeah, just got to be you got to be super mindful of what you post all the time. So
Yeah.
I just like yeah, and if yeah, it's I don't know, like I'm yeah, and I don't really post like my daily life. You know what I mean? Like I said, that's kind of just like one of those things I like to keep to myself. You got to keep a little bit to yourself. So
Hmm.
I yeah, it's kind of just yeah, I'm still learning. It's just still a process. I think that's why it kind of you know what I mean. I grew up in the age before social media, so it's like
I know.
I'm not just there to just, start that and just do that at all
Yeah.
times in all aspects, so
No, I mean, I could definitely relate because I'm the same way. Like, yeah, I share a lot of vulnerable stuff on there, but like, there's still a lot that I don't really share either. And I'm just not into selfies hardly. So I get where you're coming from for sure.
yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a process. It's still a learning process when it comes to like being in front of like yeah, the whole social media thing. So but I
Mhm.
mean, it'll take time. But I like I said, I feel like I have found ways that I want to do it now that I feel like won't be they won't like what's the word? Like threatening to how I feel on a daily basis, I guess.
Got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Like
sense.
it'll be like things that I'm comfortable with.
Mm.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
and I'm just and I say that only because of you being, an artist, and I'm just curious as to like how, because I know that like unfortunately, like whether we like it or not, like there's a level of it that is helpful to, your career and your goals and stuff like that. Like it's helpful because that's where most of your fan base is going to be on. So it's like, being able to learn how to have a balance, I guess. And, it's kind of like that learning process. And, I was just wondering how you were going about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still like I said, it's still something that I'm learning to do. Um and how to do it or I guess how I'm comfortable with doing it. Cause I feel
Mhm.
like everybody kind of has their own ways. And like there's definitely things that you need to do like a lot. But it's still figuring out still like yeah, I guess still learning curve of figuring out how to do it the right way that still like makes it comfortable for you and like how you want to do it.
Now, before we go, I'd love to just ask you one last question. As far as like, what is something that you wish that you knew before you kind of, got started, or like maybe 10 years ago, like something that you can kind of give advice to somebody who's just starting, or maybe if you could give yourself advice, like, is there something that you could share?
What's something that I could share? Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty much like exactly what I said earlier about like the resources and like not knowing how much it took to really like put out a good song, a good quality song. So it just be like be prepared for investing in yourself because like low key like uh if I could tell myself that I probably invested about 30 to 40 thousand dollars in myself, like from when I started doing music, like that
Mm-hmm.
like that's low key people's salary for a year, like, and that's
Yeah,
that's how deep
how's
I
a
am
whole
in.
car?
Yeah, that's how deep I am. So like like just I don't think people understand like the the amount of like funding it takes to really like get yourself somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
um but again, it's an investment in yourself, and I think at the end of the day that's the best investment you could ever make is in yourself, and
Yeah.
what you want to do, things that give you satisfaction in your life, because at the end of the day, like, what are you living for if you're not there to satisfy yourself and those ambitions of yourself, for
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be the biggest thing. Like, if you really believe in yourself, then invest in yourself. But again, like, it's not definitely not easy, and it definitely takes a lot, a lot of hours. You know what I mean? Because again, like, these are hours that you're not, your time is a huge investment, and these are hours that you don't get back. So
True.
not only is the funding,
Funding,
but it's
time.
just the hours that you don't get paid for,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just you're working for free. But I mean, again, it's what you want to do. So like, if you love it, then go after it. Like, like, it's not something that I'm ever gonna give up. And I think people who come into my life start to understand that. Like, I can definitely tell you that I, lost a couple friendships, a couple relationships because of it. And I mean, at the end of the day, they weren't meant to be there, but like, it is what it is. Like, that's,
Mm-hmm.
something I love, and it's a passion of mine, and it, will never go away. So
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. And I've been knowing you for a while now,
yeah,
and just kind of seeing you go through the process and knowing about it, I always get excited and happy for you. And I look forward to your next project and release and whatever else you got going on. So definitely look forward to that.
I appreciate it. It's good to hear that. Sometimes we need those words of affirmation. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So thank you for giving me your time, and and coming on the show and sharing everything with us. So
For sure. I'll anytime, whenever you need another guest, I got you.
yeah, thank
We'll
you so
we'll do
much.
we'll do part two
But part
soon.
two for sure. Imagine when you're like already like closer to like that goal, and we could do it again and just talk about like
Yeah.
how much you've progressed since since now.
Yeah.
So that'll
I'm
be
sure you got I know I'm sure you got more questions for sure. Like, now that you know a little bit more about me and my backstory, I'm sure more questions will
yeah,
pop into
and
your
yeah.
head.